we have a system that is fragile. It doesn't take a lot to cause a problem, a delivery problem, some new item of more question about, whether the ETFs have all the silver they say they do, or whether this thing that gets started tomorrow where people go in and buy silver, and it doesn't have to be big purchases of 10,000 ounces a person. There are people buying 20 or 50 or 100 ounces. All that goes and becomes a trickle to a flood.
This is Dunnigan Kaiser, founder of Liberty and Finance. I'm now a licensed gold and silver dealer with Miles Franklin. Call me directly for the physical gold and silver that you need at the best price with personalized, private service from one of the oldest and best respected companies in the business. 30 years strong, A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, 0 complaints, licensed and bonded, insured delivery or vault storage or IRAs, excellent prices, privacy and confidentiality, pay by check, money order, ACH or wire, satisfaction guaranteed. Call me directly at 419-819-9209 or my associate at 310-562-6400 or email us at kaiser@milesfranklin.com.
Welcome back, Liberty and Finance. I'm Elijah K. Johnson, your host for this Liberty and Finance interview. And today is Friday, April 30th. We're recording this on Friday, but markets are closed for gold and silver now, leading into the SilverSqueeze 2.0 weekend. May 1st, 2011 was when silver crashed quite a few dollars on that Sunday when it opened, and this was right after it was just near $50 and it crashed. So as the 10th year anniversary, May 1st, there's this group that's pushing to squeeze silver again for people to buy physical silver in order to take it off the market. My perspective is it's helping people to take control, right, of some of their finances, take control of really having some of their finances in an asset that you can hold, right, outside of the financial system. So that's kind of my opinion on the SilverSqueeze. But we wanted to have David Smith from the Morgan Report come on and really give his perspective. Again, we're recording this Friday, but markets are closed. Gold is just below $17.70. Silver is just below $26. What is your take on this whole SilverSqueeze 2.0 that we're witnessing right now as people are buying physical silver, and how do you think it's going to impact the silver market?
I've been following this a little bit, listening to the conversation and getting the idea of the things that you mentioned and how that will play out tomorrow, or if there'll be a lag effect. I really don't know, but I think it'll be a really good education event for all listeners, and it certainly should motivate individuals to buy silver, whether they step up the purchase that they were going to do or institute an average dollar cost averaging program or something like this. But, the idea of holding your hand silver is really, really a good feeling. And whether that's a 1 ounce round or a 100 ounce bar or, 10 ounce bar, something like this, it's all to the good. And not trusting another entity to have what they say they have for you, or certainly not putting it in an unallocated account where it's mingled with other people, is something that I think you want to try to avoid. And so we're bringing new eyes to the story all the time, with the Reddit Silver subgroup and with what Miles Franklin is doing and others, and the writings that we do. And I have an essay going into Prospector News here for the next bi-monthly issue, and it'll talk about that, why it doesn't make good sense to wait for lower silver prices. And I spell sense C-E-N-T-S rather than S-I-N-C-E, or S-E-E-N-S-E, I guess it would be. So I think it'll be fascinating to watch. I don't have a prediction what the outcome will be, but I think it'll be all to the good because it will get people interested in what's going on, and they'll learn that just how fragile this system is with what's been going on in recent months and years, and the game, the game plan that the people have that want to keep this thing going and keep $25 or $30 silver as a limit is running out of gas, and the story is getting old. And I think we're in for some pretty interesting things going forward in the coming weeks and months.
And what is your take on it being placed on the anniversary, the 10th year anniversary of the crash we saw May 1st, 2011?
I think it's symbolically very important to do it this way. I very much remember what happened. I know that David Morgan had actually called that top as possibly a major one within one day of it happening. He made this comment in writing, or online to our subscribers. I wrote to Greg McCoach about it, called it as a 2-day event, thinking it was a pretty big deal. But I'll tell you, I had no idea that it was going to play out the way it did, to have this crash of $6 or $7 an ounce without even an attempt to penetrate the old highs, and then usher in a period of time of literally about 5 years where silver would decline all the way down to $12 or $15 an ounce, and take the mining stocks down massively with it, so that anybody that held on was just eviscerated. And I know it affected my own account, even though I sold some of my stocks on the way down, fortunately, but I still was down about 50% on my balance by the end of it. So it was a horrendous deal. And the way it played out didn't need to happen in an open market, but it got underway due to some real skullduggery, I think, on the part of the powers that be on the exchanges.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned how silver fell significantly, and even as it is today, it's about 50% from its high back in 2011. So what gives you confidence that that won't happen again, or that we won't see another 10 years of just consolidation?
I think that it'll be attempted again, and not just one time either, but when it challenges $30, it'll be an effort, and when it challenges 45 or 50, which it will. I think each time it will have less effect. It's like when the government sends out money to stimulate the economy. I don't remember the exact amount on this. Marion Katusa had a good handle on it. I think it was originally anywhere from $1.80 to $2.20 of benefit for every dollar that the Fed showered on the economy. And now it's less than $1. It's about 85 cents or something, if that. And I think that will be the same conceptual effect here, where the more this is attempted, because more people know the game and what they're trying to do, the less effect it's going to have. Also, it's more of a global participation this time, even than it was in 2011. And so I think it'll have an effect, but I don't see it happening anything quite like it did in 2011, which was a real shocker, I'll have to say.
We're sitting for silver right below $26. Your thoughts on where that could go then Sunday evening? Because last time we saw this push for a silver squeeze, we gapped up like $1. It rose more than $1 from the close to the open. So your thoughts on that, where we could see silver head after this?
We could certainly see a jump in here. I just don't have a feel for it. It could be anything from no change to up a couple dollars to down $1 if the clowns that normally do this try to sell a bunch of paper into the Sunday night market or the morning. They might wait until 10:30 Eastern Standard Time when a lot of things seem to happen, and then try to trash it with a bunch of physical silver. But I don't think a lot of people are going to be shaken out this time. For one thing, there's been a steady accumulation of mining stocks at prices that make sense by many investors. There's been merger and acquisitions that have gone on a pretty big basis. There's been a big difference. And keep in mind that in 2011, we were still seeing increases every year in the amount of silver into the market. And it wasn't until 2015 that we notched the first time in a long time when silver was less produced globally in 2015 than it was the year before. And from 2015, according to Keith Neumeyer at First Majestic Silver, each year except for 1 year between then and now, we've seen less silver produced than was produced in 2015. And there was 1 year that there was more produced, but not a lot. So I think that the landscape has changed a lot. There's less silver being produced. We're in the fifth year of a deficit. We have the after effects of COVID, which dropped us down about 10 or 15% globally in production. That's still playing out this year. We have many more people buying silver. We have true shortages, as you know, at Miles Franklin, across the board, not only from domestic sellers like yourself, but more difficult to get silver in a lot of different exchanges. The Perth Mint has had questions about whether they have all the silver they say they have. They've registered record 4-month sales of gold and silver that they've never experienced before. Things are a whole lot different. And I think if people think that they can come in from the big brokerage houses and sell a bunch of paper silver that doesn't exist, and the market's going to collapse and everybody's going to sell their silver, I think they're going to be sadly mistaken. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting going forward.
I know the former director of the U.S. Mint was recently interviewed on Kitco, and he said that his opinion is there's probably more paper silver out there than the physical metal. But the idea of a silver squeeze, trying to push the price higher by buying a lot of physical metal, he doesn't think it's going to impact the price significantly because it's very different. It's a different kind of market than we saw, for example, for the GameStop stock, right? Because it's one stock, it's a lot smaller than the whole silver market. Your perspective on can buying physical silver have a significant impact on the price?
I listened to that interview this morning and I thought it was reasonably well informed, and I gather that he's now being retired. He's working as an advocate for one of the either the exchanges or a brokerage house, and that's quite honorable to do that. I think he's very knowledgeable about things having to do with American silver eagles and American gold eagles, but I think he's less dialed into the global dynamics that are going on now, where the Chinese are coming back in a big way right now to buy gold, and they've kept buying silver as a result of not being able to do this so much in the last year or so. And I think you're going to see some very big numbers over the next month or so from what the Chinese are doing. The Indians are doing the same thing because prices have been down and because duties have been relaxed a bit. And so I think that these are wild cards out there, and the Shanghai Gold Exchange and the Silver Exchange have been continuing to buy a lot of metal. So I think it'll be more energetic than he thinks. And, they're right in the middle of this first ever change in American Silver Eagles to change the design of it. And maybe you know this, I don't. I know that the old ones are not being merchandised anymore, the ones that have been used since 1986. And by the way, I've collected one every year that they've done this at David Morgan's suggestion as kind of something for my children and as something to look at. So I bought one the first half of this year, and I'm waiting to get a chance to buy a new design the second half of this year. But I think that I think his decision is informed within the context of his past experience, but I think it's a bigger picture that may be less predictable by him or anyone else than his interview would suggest.
Definitely, and I'll link in the description of this video the interview so our viewers can check that out. It was a very good interview, and I think what he was maybe more asked about was the silver squeeze. Right? Is it possible to squeeze silver? Not necessarily all the physical demand around the world, because that is quite a lot, as you mentioned, from China and India right now.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think we have a system that is fragile. It doesn't take a lot to cause a problem, a delivery problem, some new item of more question about whether the ETFs have all the silver they say they do, or whether this thing that gets started tomorrow where people go in and buy silver, and it doesn't have to be big purchases of 10,000 ounces a person. There are people buying 20 or 50 or 100 ounces. All that goes and becomes a trickle to a flood. It's like the Chinese have always considered themselves to be a tributary system where all the wealth of the world flows into China, the central system. They use this metaphor for many, many centuries. And I think that tributary system of silver streaming out from all sorts of purchases into a way that is no longer controlled by the paper silver folks is going to have a profound effect going forward. And one of these days, it's going to be crunch time, and there's no turning back. And the people that deal with this by the way they did in 2011, they're going to try the same thing. They don't have any new ideas in mind, and I think they're going to get a shocker one of these days where they're going to hold a party that nobody came to.
And before we let you go, can you kind of share with the viewers maybe an update on the supply of silver? Because you mentioned how, COVID did make a big impact on that, and you said how it is continuing to kind of have an impact on that. So the supply of silver going forward, your perspective.
Keith Neumeyer opines that it'll have an effect again this year. And one of these things is a non-COVID response. For the past 10 to 12 years, and SRS Rocco has shown this graphically, the top 7 or 10 primary silver miners in the world have all experienced declining grades. They dig out more ore out of the ground and they get less silver out of it. And it's down 55 to 60% from what it was a decade ago. So they're digging like mad and they're getting less for it. So this is something that is corrosive to the supply situation, and it's something that is going to have an effect, just like tomorrow might have. All these things together are going to have a big effect. And so it's kind of like a situation where you have 3 or 4 or 5 factors that amongst themselves are not huge, but when they come together, they can cause a systemic issue, whether it's a plane that collapses because it has several deficiencies going on, or whether it's a silver supply because you have new people and more people coming in to buy more silver and not holding it in paper, but holding it in their own hand. And that's going to cause a problem. And it's not going to take a long time to happen like we've been looking at for many years. And some people that have gotten worn out or scared out, as David Morgan uses the phrase, in silver, they're kind of cynical. Some of them have given up. Some of them think, this is something you've always said. But, when you have a problem, and the problem is how to break silver free to demonstrate its own price point in relation to value that it should be, and none of us knows what that is because it's been going on for decades. That's a point where everything changes at some point. And when you have a problem, you go back to the basics. You look at the basics of what is causing this and what it takes to change, and you see that the solution is in with the basics. You keep showing up, you keep buying some silver, you keep having faith, and one of these days, in a way that will probably surprise all of us, we'll see a day that will be different than it ever has been before, and there'll be no going back. It'll be crossing the Rubicon, and so we'll keep watching for that, and I intend to be there when it happens.
Before we let you go, if people would like to hear more of these interviews, they can hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so they'll be notified of all the new interviews we're doing. And before we let you go, David, where can people find you online if they're interested in learning more?
They can find me by subscribing to the Morgan Report, which I write monthly contributions to. They can also, and I've kind of just started this recently, I really want to be even more helpful to people and start out, not asking for something, but giving something. And David Morgan and I have been ambassadors to the Loeb Cryptographic Silver Project almost since its inception. It's now about 4 years old. It's really getting gravitas and traction, getting a lot of participation by people. And so they can find out information about this by going to lode.one, and that's lode.one. And they can write me directly by writing to David S. at lode.one. That's lode.one. And I'll be happy to give them some information. I can't give them financial advice, but I can, give them my thinking on this and direct them maybe in a way that they can get more information to take a look at things. David Morgan and I and other members of the Morgan team participate in this. We've invested in it, and it's a monetary system based upon silver and gold that we want to see out there to be successful, and we think it's going to be. It already is. So I'd like to help people a little bit if I can on this. They may or may not get involved, but they're going to learn something. So that's where that is.
Definitely. Once again, David Smith, thank you so much for your time and God bless.
Thank you very much, Elijah. I wish you very much the best.
This is Donegan Kaiser, founder of Liberty and Finance. I'm now a licensed gold and silver dealer with Miles Franklin. Call me directly for the physical gold and silver that you need at the best price with personalized, private service from one of the oldest and best respected companies in the business. 30 years strong, A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, 0 complaints, licensed and bonded, insured delivery or vault storage or IRAs, excellent prices, privacy and confidentiality, pay by check, money order, ACH or wire, satisfaction guaranteed. Call me directly at 419-819-9209 or my associate at 310-562-6400 or email us at kaiser@milesfranklin.com.